up on the road to WAC Vegas. Abilene Christian picks up where they left off last season. The Wildcats win their opening games in the WAC. After a wait of 667 days, New Mexico State is back at the Pan Am Center in Las Cruces for conference play. Plus, a milestone for Stephen F. Austin women's coach Mark Kellogg. Find out what he thinks about joining the 400 Club. That's all ahead on the road to WAC Vegas.
New Mexico State going on to the tournament. Just a phenomenal game. What college basketball is all about.
Welcome to the road to WAC Vegas. I'm Kendra Sheehan. We hope everybody had a happy new year. And as we look forward to 2022, the Abilene Christian men's basketball team celebrated the holiday with a couple big victories on the road. The Wildcats starting their WAC era at defending co-champion Utah Valley. Arion Simmons was the high scorer with 21 points. ACU wins their 10th game in a row, final of 80-76. On New Year's night, Abilene Christian at Dixie State, and it was a career night for Wildcat sophomore Cameron Steele. He scores 19 points in the first half. That tops his previous career high, which was 18. Steele's 19 points also outscores the Trailblazers, who had 17 in the first half. Steele picks up our Ticket Smarter WAC Player of the Week award. He ends up with 23 points as ACU wins 64-50. Thursday night, Abilene Christian hosts Stephen F. Austin at 7 p.m. Central, live on ESPN+. This is our featured game of the week. The Wildcats have won 11 games in a row, while the Lumberjacks open up WAC play on Thursday night, with their last game being played on December 18th at Kansas. It had been 667 days since New Mexico State had a conference home game. The Aggies spent all of last season on the road. Opening up WAC play against Chicago State, tight game early on. Jabari Rice gets the steal, dishes to Teddy Allen for the jam. Aggies lead 30-26 at the break. Second half, New Mexico State pulls away. Freshman Chi-Chi Avery comes off the bench to score 11. New Mexico State wins their 7th in a row, final of 78-71. The Cougars playing two nights earlier at Grand Canyon. This was Chicago State's first WAC game since February 29th of 2020, as CSU opted out of last season due to COVID-19 concerns. Javon Blacksher Jr. goes 5 of 7 from 3 with 24 points. Lopes lead 42-34 at the break. Second half, check out Gabe McLaughlin on the follow-up jam. GCU wins 80-63 and are now 11-2 on the season. Both Grand Canyon and New Mexico State are scheduled to be on the road this week, visiting Lamar and UTRGV. Make sure to check our website for any changes. Also, congratulations to Chicago State guard Ali Diba. He is our Ticket Smarter WAC Freshman of the Week. Diba scored 21 points in his collegiate basketball debut at Grand Canyon. Monday night basketball at Sam Houston. The Bearcats hosting UTRGV after their game last week was postponed. Huge night for Savion Flagg. He scores 27 points with 17 rebounds as the Bearcats win 86-78. But one big highlight for the Vaqueros, Mike Adewunmi with the big-time slam, an early contender for next week's WAC Top Play. Stephen F. Austin's women's coach, Mark Kellogg, celebrated a career milestone this past week. Coming up next, we talk with the Lady Jacks head coach. We'll be right back.
Fans, welcome back to WAC Vegas. As we celebrate more than a decade of madness at the Orleans Arena, the 2022 Hercules Tires WAC Basketball Tournament, March 9th through the 12th. In this year, there are even more games to watch, with 20 teams in Las Vegas. For ticket information, go to wacsports.com.
Welcome back to the road to WAC Vegas. I'm Kendra Sheehan, joined with head coach Mark Kellogg of Stephen F. Austin's women's basketball program. Coach, you start conference play 1-0 against UTRGV while simultaneously earning your 400th career win. What was that moment like for you?
Well, the moment was much more being 1-0, I think, than 400. And we didn't really even talk about that. And it really wasn't ever even mentioned pre or post game or anything like that. And honestly, I had forgotten. My 14-year-old son had kind of been keeping it up more than I had. So he was letting me know, and I had completely forgotten. So no, it was that game. We were down to 9 because of COVID. So we only had 9 players. And of course it was the first WAC game, and there was just so much going on and trying to prepare, for that one. And really that was kind of the focus and the emphasis and what we were going to do to survive with the 9 players and all these different rotations and things like that, which we had not gone through. So no, it was a good win for us. Good to get the first one, of course. And then, we didn't really celebrate 400, but it allows you to, I guess go back, as we were alluding to before we got on here, about Fort Lewis days, because there was 100+ wins from there, and West Texas and Northwest Missouri. And then of course, SFA, my 4 stops and so there's a lot of good players and good coaches and administrators that were a part of that. So pretty humbled and thankful.
Now that it's been a little bit of time, has it sunk in more? Have you really reflected? I know we just kind of talked about it, but is there a game that stands out to you most about one of those wins that you think of, that comes to mind when you think of 400 wins and all that you've accomplished so far?
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily one. There's a couple losses for sure that still that stick out that I would like to have back. But we played in. I've been fortunate to play in 2 national championship games at the Division II level, and of course played an NCAA tournament at the Division I level a year ago. But there's a lot of special wins. But I think it really was just the messages and former players reaching out, and just different people that you've worked with, coaches. That's what we always remember, right? There's scores that I won't remember and games that I won't remember, but I'll sure remember some of the kids and the personalities and the adventures that we went through, and how we just built programs, built seasons, that ended, and then we've been fortunate to end with quite a few wins through those seasons. But that's, I think, what we think about more than any one win.
Absolutely. Now, this season, do you feel like what you guys accomplished during this non-conference slate has prepared this team to take on WAC play and hang with anyone in this conference?
Well, yeah, you sure hope so. I mean, that's why you build your non-conference schedule, right? Is to prepare you for this. And yeah, we felt pretty good. We stumbled on that Gonzaga-Portland road trip, so that was a little disappointing to us. I don't think anybody in my program had lost back-to-back games, so that was something new for us that we had to go through, which hopefully makes us better. But we played in a tournament where we played 3 games in 3 days over Thanksgiving, so I think that was good. If that situation were to present itself where we have to do something like that in a conference tournament. Obviously, we've played some Power Fives and we've played some really good mid-majors. So I think, we've seen different styles of play. We've played against teams that are bigger than us, some that are smaller than us. I think we're equipped. I think we're prepared from the non-conference schedule for WAC play. I think, as all of us are trying now to survive COVID, I think is the biggest question mark at this point, to see if that allows us to continue with some continuity and some momentum.
For sure. Now, when we spoke in October, you told me that you didn't want to be just an offensive team or just a defensive team. You really wanted to have that complete game. How do you feel like your team has come together up until this point?
Yeah, I think that's still a little bit of a work in progress. I mean, some of the statistics will tell you that it's probably still pretty good on the offensive and defensive end if you just look through some of those. But I think I don't know that we've put the complete performance together yet, and that can be a good thing. I wouldn't necessarily want to peak too early, and I still think we've got some work to do on both ends. I mean, there's times where I'm like, man, I really like us defensively, and then there's times I haven't loved what we're doing offensively. I don't think we've shot the 3 at the level that I think this team is capable of shooting it yet this year, but it's all in front of it. I mean, we can still take care of all of it. It's not something that's just such a glaring weakness that we can't overcome it. I think we will, and I think we'll keep getting better.
You returned numerous players from your successful campaign last season. How has that helped this team? Do you feel like you're further along now than where you were last year as you were beginning Southland play?
Well, probably not quite yet. Last year, we really returned every player from the year before had experience except for one, in Avery Brittingham, and all the other kids were already in the program. And this year, we're working in really probably 3 kids of, like, say, the top 10 that were not a part of our program last year. So for those 7 that have been here, sure, like, we feel really good about them. They know what's going on and where they're supposed to be. It's still a work in progress for the other 3, and that's okay. I mean, I think typically with any new kid, whether that's a transfer or high school kid, it takes them until about December or January, maybe, in our program before, I always say, the light flicks on, like, it's kind of off and on right now for them. Sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off. But I think by January, the light kind of stays on most of the time, and they're starting to figure some things out. And so that's what I'm excited to see through this month, is to see if those kind of 3 or 4 that weren't here a year ago really start to kind of keep that light on and understand what this is about.
A big player for you, Stephanie Vischer, recently surpassed 1,000 career points in November. She had 18 points in your win against UTRGV. She's your team leading scorer as well. What has her leadership meant to this program?
Well, yeah, it's one of those things. I don't know how you measure it, right? Because it's been so good since the minute she got here. And we may have talked about this too, even in the fall when we talked, but she has always thought like a pro. And and I mean that from academically, she's a 4.0 student. She was our conference, the Southland Conference Academic Player of the Year a year ago. Her work ethic, the way she eats, the way she trains has been next level. And it's been that way from the very beginning. So she's more vocal this year, which we've needed. She is pretty quiet kid by nature and just kind of just go about her business, but going about her business, everybody at least sees it and it's next level. And so, the other kids don't really have a choice. If that's the standard, then that's a pretty good standard to have.
Your team's battle inside, you have that high-powered offense that we had talked about before. How is it that your team is continuing to find different ways to put points on the board?
Yeah, well, that's what we've always wanted to be about. So balance and depth are 2 words I use whether it's recruiting or coaching, the way we, build our system is we've never really been about one player, right? And even our leading scorers don't always average 17 a game or something like that. Although Stephanie Vischer and Ayanna Johnson and the Averys and Zayas, they could, right? But we don't really want to be about that. We want to be unselfish. We want assists to be high, which I think we're about, 18 or 19 a game right now, which is pretty good. One of the top teams in the country from an assist standpoint. So it's sharing the ball. And when you share the ball, everybody gets to touch it. Everybody's excited for the others. It's a fun brand to play. And then we can if we have a mismatch, say with an Ayanna, we can go to that for that game, but maybe the next night we don't. And so now it goes to somebody else like Steph or Zaya or Bree Mitchell, who's running, the point guards for us. So there's just versatility there. And as a coach, for me, that I love that piece of it. I just love knowing that we don't have to rely on a certain kid every night, right? If they have an off night, we have other kids that are more than capable of stepping up.
That was head coach Mark Kellogg of Stephen F. Austin's women's basketball program. We'll be right back on the road to WAC Vegas talking more women's basketball. Welcome back to the road to WAC Vegas. Stephen F. Austin joined the WAC this year following an undefeated season in the Southland and an NCAA tournament berth. The Lady Jacks were picked to finish second in the WAC in the preseason coaches poll. Mark Kellogg's team went 9-3 in the non-conference. SFA on the road to play their first ever game in the WAC. At UTRGV in Edinburgh, Texas, Stephanie Vischer bounced past to Ayanna Johnson for the open layup. Johnson leading the team with 18 points, and the Lady Jacks going on a 19-0 run to close out the first quarter. The Vaqueros trying to get back into this game in the third quarter. Taylor Muff, following her shot, earns the second chance points. In the fourth quarter, SFA is on a tear. Vischer, the reverse layup, and Stephen F. Austin earns their first dub in the WAC, 65-50 over UTRGV. With this win, head coach Mark Kellogg notched his 400th career win. Congrats, Coach. ACU defeated Utah Valley 69-63 to win their first ever WAC game. The Wildcats clawed back from a 12-point deficit in the first half. 4 players scored in double figures, with Jamie Bonarens leading the charge with 16. On New Year's Day, ACU takes down Dixie State. Bonarens once again proving herself, dropping 20 points in the 71-53 win. No surprise here with her performance, Bonarens takes home our Ticket Smarter WAC Player of the Week award. Meanwhile, teammate Bella Earl is our Ticket Smarter WAC Freshman of the Week. Earl was a spark off the bench for the Wildcats, adding 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists on the week. With cases of the coronavirus increasing across the country, the WAC is no different. Last week, 5 teams were unable to play games due to COVID-19 protocols. With more postponements anticipated in the coming weeks, be sure to follow WAC Sports on Twitter for the most up-to-date information. California Baptist was unable to play last week, but before the holidays, fifth-year player Brittany Thomas earned Player of the Week honors after she scored a season-high 29 points and pulled down 13 rebounds in just 23 minutes of play in CBU's win over Cal Poly. Grand Canyon's Nadia Evans was named Freshman of the Week after scoring 7 points and grabbing 4 boards in the Lopes win over UC Irvine before Christmas. GCU traveled to Chicago State for both teams' conference openers. The Cougars giving the Lopes a game, Nydasia Jackson with the triple to tie the game up at 18. Just before the half, CSU moving the ball around, Aaliyah Collins sinks it from downtown, and Chicago State takes the lead by 3. The teams would go into the break tied up at 33. In the fourth, Lopes pull away Amara Graham from way behind the arc. She had a total of 6 threes, dropping 25 points. GCU ends 2021 with a win, cruising past Chicago State 66-49. We finished this episode of Road to WAC Vegas with this week's WAC Top Play. That goes to Shamir Bogues of Tarleton, who had this block, steal, and flush during the Texans' win over Dixie State. If you see a spectacular play like this, let us know about it using the hashtag WACTopPlay. Also, congratulations to Luis Carrillo, who won our first Road to WAC Vegas contest with this fabulous Chicago State-themed gingerbread house. All season long, we'll have contests on our social media accounts to win tickets to WAC Vegas, so be sure to check those so you can be a part of the madness. We will be at the Orleans Arena in just 9 weeks, so that does it for this episode of Road to WAC Vegas. We'll see you next week.